Welcome to the Space Cabin Audio Tutorial Series. The Docked Midi Editor. If you are coming from another DAW and using Pro Tools for the first time, one of the first things you might notice is that Pro Tools does not have a docked MIDI editor by default. Although I prefer to work in a separate MIDI editing window, I get asked this question all the time, so I thought I should cover it. Pro Tools does have a docked MIDI editor. You can access it in a few ways. The first is to go to the bottom left of the edit window and click the up arrow to expose the docked MIDI editor. The second is to go to the top right of the edit window and choose the edit window toolbar menu and choose MIDI editor. You can also choose the view menu, then choose other displays, MIDI editor. Unfortunately, there is no keyboard shortcut assigned to open the docked MIDI editor. A cool feature of the MIDI editor in Pro Tools is that the edit tools, grid size, nudge values, and edit modes are not linked to the edit window. This means that you can edit MIDI at, say, a 16th note value using grid edit mode and the pencil tool, but have a 1-bar grid value selected in your edit window using the smart tool. This can greatly speed up playback selections and navigation. Let's dive into the docked MIDI editor. The first thing I will show you is how the scrolling options work. Since I nearly always work with MIDI using the dynamic transport, I want to make sure that the no scrolling option is checked. You can choose any of the options that suit your personal workflow, and remember, these are separate from the main edit window. I'm also going to choose to show the expanded edit tools, as well as the expanded grid and nudge display. I never use my mouse to select any edit tool, but for the purpose of this tutorial, it makes it easier to see what is going on. The first thing you'll notice is that because the MIDI editor and the edit window are separate, the default zoom levels will be different. To fix this, I'm going to make a selection in the edit window and use the keyboard shortcut Alt-F on the PC or Option-F on the Mac to zoom to my selection. Next, I'm going to bring the docked editor into focus by clicking the top of the editor and using that same shortcut. We now have a similar zoom level on both the edit window and the MIDI editor. Next, I'm going to enable the dynamic transport. If you watched my last tutorial, you'll remember that the shortcut is Ctrl-Start-P on Windows or Ctrl-Command-P on the Mac. Next, I'm going to change the grid size for each window. The edit window will have a value of 1 bar, and the MIDI editor will have a value of 64th notes. I'm going to be adding some flams and some rolls to this drum track to make it feel a bit more alive. Having separate grid values can be useful, but for the most part, I'm just going to stick in the docked editor. I'll select my Play Start location with the Play Start marker. Notice that I can change my default note velocity in the MIDI editor, and it's not linked to either window, so I actually have two separate areas where I can edit notes and velocity separately. Now I'll add some flams. Since I don't want to audition the MIDI I'm penciling in, I'm going to deselect Play MIDI Notes when editing. Now that I have my flams penciled in, I just want to hear what they sound like. Next, I want to add a roll right before this fill to give this snare a little, hey, how you doing, if you know what I'm saying. So I'll zoom in on this here, and then choose my Play Start marker. Right there. My grid's already in 64th notes, but my default note velocity is too loud. That doesn't sound very good at all. So I'm going to lower these down, probably to about here. Let's check it out. Nice. That's even more better. More better. Betterest. That's proper English. Another cool feature of the MIDI editor is the fact that we can work in musical notation instead of MIDI for those of you that are more comfortable working that way. Down here I have a bass track. Let's take a look at that, and we'll look at it in Notation View. To enable the notation display, simply go up to the Notation Display Enable button, click it, and the track will update its view to the track's notation instead of MIDI. Thanks for watching this tutorial on the docked MIDI editor. There's going to be a lot more in-depth MIDI tutorials from me in the future. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions, or maybe you just want to hear more auto-tune, leave it in the comments and I'll do my best to get at it. Peace.